Hello and welcome to Kahls. This is the 2021-2022 season Good Calls, Bad Calls show. This is going to be a lot of fun. The last show of the year per se. I will have one show the week before the Tournament of Champions, doing salary preview, but I'll get into my schedule here after a little while. So to end the year, I like to have a little bit of fun, especially at my expense, and give you all some reminders of some of the good and not so good recommendations that I had for you all this season. There were plenty of them. Am going to enjoy this quite a bit. If you can't laugh at yourself a little bit, then it's just a part of life. You're not going to be correct on everything. So let's just have some fun, laid back. Hopefully you've had a very good 2 weeks. If you have not checked out the Friday night chill stream, I suggest you do so, as I found some new research for baseball. So I covered a little bit of that. It is a very short stream. I'm not still not familiar with a lot of it, but walked through a little bit of what I've found. I'm looking forward to that coming up in March for when baseball season rolls around. So if you want to see some of the inner workings and a lot of the statistics for what I am going to use, at least to begin baseball, check out last Friday night's chill stream. But we're not here for that. We're here to have some fun and remember the good and not so good recommendations I had for you all. So not a whole lot of announcements. As always, all statistics are were and are provided by Fantasy National. It's the best tool out there. It allows me to do what I do. In the description, there are links to all of my social media. I will be posting various different things throughout or leading up to the Tournament of Champions. My Twitch is there. This is where I have been more laid back and doing more gaming as of late until golf picks up again. So if you want to see some of that content as well, and Twitch is also where I will be doing the majority of my Showdown content as well, which was very successful this fall. So I plan on continuing and expanding on that early on in 2023. There are links to my Twitter and Instagram, all of that. This is where I post the research, my betting cards, all of that good stuff. And then finally, we're live. Chat's open, as James has done so in Twitch. Thanks for jumping in, James. Hope all has been well. Thanks for tuning in, like you always do when you are able to live. But chat's open. I want to hear from you all. What were some of your favorite moments from this past season? Some good and some not so good. I'm here for all of it. Like I said, I wouldn't be making a video highlighting my worst recommendations to you all if I couldn't handle the Raz. So by all means, let's have some fun, and remember the good and not so good, and have a very relaxed, fun show to end the season. So let's get into the 5 good and 5 bad calls for the 2021 and 2022 PGA Tour season. And the first one that we're going to go to is the number 5 for the bad. It was at the 2021 Houston, a tournament that I actually did okay at, with the exception of this recommendation. So give me a moment. I'm going to play the video, and if I need to adjust the sound, I will. And let me know if I need to turn it up or turn it down or anything like that. I checked it on my end. It seemed okay. but you will have to let me know in chat. But this is number 5 in terms of bad. And it is at Kahls. If I don't get a little crazy from time to time and recommend some cheap players, minimums 61, 6200s. And in fact, number 5 for both good and bad are 6,000 plays that I recommended throughout the year. We're going to start with the bad one. Yeah, this one was quite fun. Hopefully you avoided me on this one, but let's hear what I had to say. If you're already down here, you might as well just try to throw a home run, throw a dart. And I'm going to give you a name that can be a dart, and that's Chase Koepka, the other Koepka. He is good enough on Bermuda putting. His irons are actually pretty good. So with that, with the Chase Koepka recommendation, you see here the numbers were actually okay for Houston. And I would go on to say that at 6,000, I think he's going to be very serviceable for you. And I think you could do much worse than Chase Koepka for 6,000. And we're looking for Mr. Chase Koepka. Well, I can tell you right now, he didn't make the cut. Clearly, he's number 5 in the bad calls for a reason. But remember what I specifically said. I said you could do much worse than Chase Koepka. Well, we're still scrolling. And he's still not there. We're still scrolling. And he's still not there. Lee Westwood's next to last. You want to take a gander at who finished last at the 2021 Houston? It was Chase Koepka. So, quite obviously, no, you could not do any worse than Chase Koepka. So, number 5 in the bad calls for me was recommending Chase Koepka, or at least to think about using Chase Koepka at the 2021 Houston Open when I said you could do much worse. He goes out and finishes last. So no, you could not do any worse than Chase Koepka. But number 5 is a 6K play that did work out in my favor, and I really hope that you all listen to me at the Valero. We've talked about the Valero quite a bit in the offseason. JJ Spawn was the winner. I had a top 20 wager on him. It was one of the tournaments that I ended up having a positive ROI for. Let's hear about the 2022 Valero and specifically Aaron Baddeley. I want you to take a look at Aaron Baddeley at the literal minimum. Okay? He's top 35 in irons. The off the tee is bad. By the way, how is the sound? It's a little bit quiet on my end. I'll turn it up a little bit. If it's too much, let me know. But if you are watching live, let me know how the sound is so you can hear it in real time. Otherwise, I will make sure to put some links in the comments to some of these videos if you want to rehash the analysis. But the bogeys are okay. The birdies on long courses are okay. This is why I'm really high on Aaron Baddeley. He has played this event amazingly well. Again, this is a course fit versus analytical or current form. So I go on to say that Aaron Baddeley had never missed the cut. It was 3 years ago that he had top 5. 2 years ago he had a top 20. He had played solidly at the Valero every single time he was in the field. He was an alternate to the field last year at the Valero, and he top 20s again this past season. with the price savings that you were getting with Aaron Baddeley, you were able to throw in the expensive players that week. Tony Finau played extremely well. In fact, the optimal lineup that I had two 6Ks in it. JJ Spawn, obviously the winner, and Aaron Baddeley. But, other players that week were very good, and you were able to do that. You were able to put all of these star-studded lineups together with the recommendation of Aaron Baddeley at 6K at the Valero. That is number 5 in the good. So let's move on to number 4. And number 4 isn't a specific tournament. It's around a player, but the problem is he's number 4 because it wasn't just one tournament. And it wasn't just 2 tournaments. It wasn't just 3 tournaments. Mr. Hank Lebioda in the fall really, really struggled last year, and he struggled this fall as well. But late in the summer of 2021, starting around the Byron Nelson, he top 20s, and then he plays well at the Palmetto. He top 5s the Travelers and the Rocket Mortgage back-to-back weeks, and then top 10s the John Deere the week after. So he had 3 straight weeks of top 10s. He misses the cut at the Wyndham, and then misses the cut at the Northern Trust to make the playoffs, but is on the fringe of, or on the far outside, or far back end of the 125, I should say. But I'm looking at him and I'm going, okay, it wasn't too long ago. He had 3 top 10s. He had another top 20, a couple of very good performances. I am very high on Hank Lebioda. At the Fortinet, he plays poorly. And then at the Shriners, he misses the cut. And then at the Bermuda, he misses the cut. And the Mayakoba, he misses the cut. In fact, he made 1 cut in 6 starts in the fall of the 2021-2022 season. It was at Houston, a tournament that I did not use him. And then he finishes in the top 15. Instead, I'm using players like Chase Koepka. Hank Lebioda is my number 4 bad calls. I was on Hank Lebioda seemingly all fall last year, much to my bank account's misery, or at least the lineups that I used him. So I fell in love with the red hot irons and the even hotter putter, and ignored the fact that he was not a very good off the tee player. The irons, while they were hot, had never historically been the best. He'd been okay, but clearly not, 0.9, 1.2, whatever he was in this range here. The POA putting I fell in love with. But in the fall, you're on Bermuda a lot, and that's clearly his worst surface. It was just a bad time all around for me when I'm playing Hank Lebioda in this stretch, not in that stretch. So Hank Lebioda for me is the number 4 bad call for the 2021-2022 season. Moving to number 4 in the good, I'm going to take you to my weekly write-ups. And I haven't done these for a while now, but for the majority of the calendar year of 2022, I did a weekly write-up and sent them to my subscribers who specifically had asked for them. So number 4 is at the PGA, and the PGA had several storylines coming into it. And this is a look at my my own kind of tournament fact sheet, if you will. And I'll zoom in for you all so you can read. As you can see, I had a favorite bomb, Maverick McNeely, but the part that I'm going to focus on here, obviously, is the selection of Justin Thomas around if I had to pick one, meaning if I could only make one bet, one win wager on a player, who would I choose? Well, at the PGA, let's see what I had to say. Spieth completing the career Grand Slam, Scheffler continuing his majestic year, Tiger back in major competition, plenty of storylines, don't care. Give me the player who's best in the field in the win statistically and scrambling. At Southern Hills, I was pretty darn confident scrambling was going to be a big factor. It obviously ended up being so. JT has the distance to handle Southern Hills and the long iron skills needed to maneuver through it. I also think the putter cooperates, and don't overlook Bones Mackay being on the bag for these bent greens. JT is your 2022 PGA champion. So in my weekly write-up to the subscribers that I send this out to, I had the winner. No, I did not place a win bet on Justin Thomas at 18-1. Why I didn't, I don't know. I can't tell you that to this day because I'm still wondering why I didn't. But I didn't. But I did pick Justin Thomas to win. A lot of it being Bones Mackay on the bag for these bent greens. Everything lined up for JT that week, and he goes out and wins. So number 4 was my, granted, off-air, but still to the community, selection of JT winning the PGA Championship. We'll move to number 3. And I don't have any video. I don't have any write-up for this one. And I'm not going to save that. We're going to come back and we're going to look at the player, although it's not going to be in Fantasy National. The number 3 bad call for me, and I'm taking a little bit of leeway here. Number 3 bad call is Collin Morikawa at the President's Cup. And I said specifically that I think Morikawa is going to be the leading point scorer for the Americans. Admittedly, I was going on a little bit of a limb, and I said that then, but I really thought Collin Morikawa showed out during the Ryder Cup in his teaming up with DJ. I felt like there were a lot of players that could line up with Collin Morikawa that fit the DJ profile, longer hitter, even keeled, has a good enough putter to carry Collin Morikawa if he needs it. Well, Collin Morikawa really disappointed me in the week only because he only played 3 sessions. He played, I believe, both alternate shots and then the singles. So instead of perhaps getting all 5 sessions, I get 3 of the 5 from Collin Morikawa. I don't think his record was even all that good at the President's Cup. Just Collin Morikawa, I was wrong about at the President's Cup. I really thought he was going to cement himself as, the key central figure going forward in team competitions, especially after his dynamic run with DJ at the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. It just didn't happen. At Quail Hollow, Morikawa didn't play much, didn't win much, and a lot of my lineups had Morikawa at it, or Morikawa in them at the President's Cup. So number 3 in the bad calls is Collin Morikawa at the President's Cup when I said I thought he would be the leading American point scorer. Now, number 3, in terms of good calls, we've talked about plenty in the offseason. But I'm going to bring you specifically to this tweet, as I need to change. There we go. This tweet here. As you can see, I sent it on May the 2nd. TBC Potomac last seen at the 2017 and 2018 Quicken Loans. Kyle Stanley and Molinari were the winners. Both came to the Quicken Loans with a tournament, having gained at least 5 strokes off the tee and strokes gained approach in the previous 3 months in the same tournament. Again, with only 140 characters, I can get pretty wordy, something I'm trying to get better at, but only one player qualifies this week under that criteria. Can you guess him? Well, if you can't guess him now, I don't know what to tell you, because it was Max Homa. Again, the Wells Fargo being moved to TBC Potomac this year because of the President's Cup. I went and researched a lot about TBC Potomac that week. Noticed that Kyle Stanley and Molinari were the winners. Found the congruent statistics that lined up for those two. And my goodness, there's only one player that qualifies. So really, there really should only be one player who wins. And obviously there will only be one player who wins. It was Max Homa. He won. So even though he was not one of my biggest odds, I'm very proud to have come to that conclusion on Max Homa with the week of research that I did leading up to the Wells Fargo. And this is the kind of research that I will have generally every Monday. Sometimes it's Tuesday if not a lot of patterns are showing, but generally every Monday I will post research around winners or the course or something for the winners of the tournament of the week in years prior. So every time I mentioned, if you want to see that research in the intro, give me a follow at Twitter, and now you can follow me on Twitch, and I do this research live, and I just post the summary of it to Twitter and Instagram. But I just brought up Twitter because it was quick. I remembered where it was. So number 3, good to call for the 2021 and 2022 PGA Tour season, Max Homa at the Wells Fargo. Everything leading up to it pointed to Max Homa winning, despite Rory in the field, Tony Finau in the field, all these Chris Kirk in the field, all these players who were red hot at the time. Everything pointed to Max Homa, and Max Homa wins. So number 3, Max Homa at the Wells Fargo. Number 2, in terms of bad calls this past PGA Tour season, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of the calendar year to the Tournament of Champions. And in a short field, short fields admittedly are not my strongest suit, because I'm not able to find the real diamond in the rough. But let's take a look at this lineup that I made for the Tournament of Champions. I found about an hour ago when I was generating it, I really, really like. And you're going to be surprised that the lowest priced player is Harris English at 78. Harris English at 7,800 was the lowest price, so clearly I'm building a very balanced lineup here. Remember last year, Cam Smith, John Rahm, they just lit it up. Matt Jones, all lit it up. Low scores everywhere. English wasn't last. I apologize. There were 38. For some reason, I thought he was 35th or so. He ended up tied for 30, but still not good. And that's what I'm leading the team with. I'm leading the team off with highlighting Harris English. That's not a good start. Well, let's continue. So if he's the lowest, priced player, it means you don't have a lot of wiggle room here, right? So Oh, and by the way, he was number 1 in my rankings too. Yikes. I'm going to start with Jordan Spieth, and yes, he's chalky, but you have to do something. And the fact that you have Harris English as your bottom player, this lineup's going to be pretty darn unique. It might be unique. Doesn't effing matter if it doesn't do well. English, tied for 30th. Jordan Spieth, tied for 21st. Outside the top 20 in a no-cut event with only 38 people. That ain't good. So Jordan Spieth at the top, Harris English at the bottom, and then we fill it in from there. Going Hideki. Actually, you know what? I like Brooks. Let's do Brooks. Let's see. I can't get away from him. It's Sung Jae. Can't get away from him. Abraham Answer here, which leaves 8,500, which is another Brooks, where you could go Daniel Berger, Cameron Smith. Could go Cameron Smith. Obviously, I didn't. So let's just check some of these players, huh? Koepka, Sung Jae, Berger, Answer. Answer, T35. Yikes. Brooksy, T28. Not good. Sung Jae, T8. Fine. Berger, fine. T5, but still nothing to the level of Cam Smith, John Rahm, Matt Jones. And when I am using a T5 and a T8, which again, notice Sung Jae 28%, Daniel Berger 23%. A lot of people have them, so you need to really hit on your unique players that you're choosing. English, big miss. Answer, big miss. Brooks, miss. Spieth, miss. Everything about the Tournament of Champions last year, I was just wrong. I was really, really focused on Eagles, and K.H. Lee really rose in my rankings thanks to that. Just look at the top here. Like, now, yes, John Rahm did finish runner-up, but let's look at the rest of the top 5. Rahm runner-up, Sung Jae T8. English was a T30. Taylor Gooch and DeChambeau. Gooch T15, mediocre. Bryson T25, pretty poor. That top 5 was atrocious. Not to mention the top 10. K.H. Lee wasn't good. Answer, we talked about. Spieth. Leishman was a T10. Okay. Just number 2 bad calls for the 2021-2022 PGA Tour season was my lineup building and thought process around the Tournament of Champions. It just didn't work. Number 2, in terms of good calls this past PGA Tour season, again, no real video, no post, no tweet, but everything regarding the 2021 CJ Cup turned out to be a big hit. Big hit. Looks like I closed out Fantasy National. I hadn't meant to. But number 2 good call was the CJ Cup at the Summit Club. Summit Club had never been seen. So we went through the entirety of the initial research show that week, looking at the course, figuring out how we think it's going to play. Rory ends up being my number 1 player in the rankings, I think. He was in the top 3. He wasn't even the tournament favorite that week. So I bet Rory. He wins. But honestly, everything about the Summit Club I got correct. The quite opposite of the Tournament of Champions that we just talked about, the Scottish Open, I was wrong about on a course that had not been seen per Fantasy National. We had never seen the Summit Club either. So two very contrasting styles there. The Summit Club I got correct. It played the way I thought it was going to. Even though it was long, it didn't play long. The par fives were attackable. Everything about it was correct the whole week through. If you want to see some specifics, go check out, especially the initial research show. I really nailed how that course was going to play, and then that led into what I specifically looked at in terms of data and for DFS. But the Summit Club week, the CJ Cup for 2021 was just very good. It was just a very good week. So number 2, good call for the 2021-2022 PGA Tour season was the Summit Club. And everything about that week for the CJ Cup. My worst call for the season. James, you weren't a regular yet here at the channel, but there was a player that was given a nickname after this week. That nickname was Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts. Because I said after this week, if I ever mention playing this player again, kick me in the nuts. We're at the Honda, the 2022 Honda. And I will bring this down so you can see the lineups that I'm trying to generate for you all. And let's take a look and listen at what I have to say about the Honda this past year. Build a lineup that combats all of this with some leverage and still some very, very high upside. And I mentioned it, during the going over my rankings, going over the 10Ks. Just because a guy wins the previous week doesn't preclude him from playing well the next week. Now, Neiman is higher than Hoagie was coming off his win. He's higher projected owned than last week's Scotty Scheffler coming off Scheffler's win of the Waste Management, but it's still only 11%. Like, I like Neiman again this week. Yes, I like Neiman again this week. By the way, this isn't even Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts. I like Neiman this week. He misses the cut. He's number 1 in my rankings. Well, I'm not going to pick him to win, but for DFS purposes, sure. I mean, yes, he's expensive. You kind of need a top 10 out of that, or a big round of bogey-free eagles and runs of birdies or whatnot. But misses the cut. I still think Joaquin Neiman's a good play. And you're avoiding the chalk of Sungjae and Louis and Berger. So I'm going to start this team with Neiman. And by all means, guys, jump in if you want to see certain players at price ranges or whatnot. But a very common start that I've had is Wolf Neiman. Wolf is a true pivot at just over 7%. And there's a reason. Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts was a pivot. I was really high on Matthew Wolf. And I promised myself I was never going to use that name again. Fortunately, I don't have to anymore, because he's over at Live. But the origin of Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts was Matthew Wolf at the Honda. He completely implodes this week. And this is coming off a fall in which he was very, very good, leading me to believe that he had, whatever issues he had taken off previously he had worked through all that. Had a very successful fall. I was very high on him. Had him in my season-long fantasy leagues, all of that. The origin of Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts, my number one worst call of the 2021-2022 PGA Tour season. You heard it. The majority of my lineups are starting Neiman and Wolf, and they both missed a cut. That is why the Honda was one of the worst DFS performances of the year for me. I don't think I cashed 10% of my lineups. I don't think I can't remember, but I don't think I did. I don't think I cashed 10% of my lineups. I mean, it was an atrocious week with all of this. And we can continue just for your fun, your entertainment. 30% of other contestants when they did Billy Horschel and Shane Lowry was already at 5%. And again, I mentioned a few names in the 6Ks. Oh, I thought I might have went more on to Wolf. I didn't. But that is the number one worst call of this past season. Matthew Wolf at the Honda. The origin. Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts himself. But it's the season of giving. And this last recommendation I had for you all, I really hope you all listened to me and took some of the advice from this week. My number one good call, the best call I had all season, is going to be no surprise. It's Mr. Luke List at the Farmers. And again, with the tournament fact sheet that I sent out to my subscribers. Yes, this isn't on air, but I was talking up Luke List all week. On air, DFS, data dive, everything. Best value, Luke List at 70-1. List's game is too good not to have a win on the PGA Tour. Consistently one of the longest drivers and has the iron game to go with it. The missing element is always putting. List is atrocious on the greens. So why label a value play? POA is by far his best surface. Combine that with fantastic form, length that's required at Torrey Pines, and his ability to demolish par fives, and List is one decent putting week away from his first title. Guess what? He had a good putting week. I think he spiked and gained 2.5. That's an enormous value for Luke List. All week at the Farmers, I was on Luke List from the moment the odds came out Monday. I mean, honestly, even Sunday night in the research. Torrey Pines requires length. It requires long irons. Putting, I mean, you have to be decent on POA, but I talk about it all the time. POA is so fickle, it can go from round to round, let alone tournament to tournament. That's why I'm much, much more focused on approach-based players. Corey Connors, Hideki's, Luke List, because their games translate across almost every course. My number one best call for the 2021-2022 PGA Tour season, it is the season setter, happened in January, fortunately and unfortunately, I guess. Luke List. And you hit 70-1. That's the season setter, or close to it. So, labeling him my best value of the week, everything about it I loved. I loved Luke List that week. It paid off. So that is the number one good call of the year. With that, that is the Good Calls, Bad Calls show. Again, more fun. I like to come back and review how I do during the year. Like to have a little bit of fun with you all. Hey, remember that time when you recommended Hank Biota 5 tournaments in a row, and he missed the cut 5 tournaments in a row. I mean, yes, I remember. I was hoping you didn't, but yeah, I remember it. Thanks. Just to have fun with things like that, because I'm not going to be correct every week. I'm not. Anyone that tells you they are is going to be lying. At least that is my firm belief. And I will never sit here and tell you I was perfect. Clearly not. And you just saw. But with this being the last show for the year, basically, my Christmas present to you all, having a little bit of fun, remembering the good and the not so good. Again, hopefully you followed me on Max Homa and Luke List and at the Valero, and you avoided me at the Honda and the Tournament of Champions and President's Cup Colin Morikawa, etc., etc. We're all going to have our hits and misses, but I thoroughly enjoy what I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it without you all, and I'm very thankful for you all that tune in and watch, support the channel, listen, have a little banter, and go back and forth with me, because that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun. It makes it enjoyable. Trying to help you all, everybody, succeed. Doing it in my own way, statistically. So the schedule for the remaining of the year, I'm going to be off. No Friday night chill stream, no calls, nothing until December the 27th. That is the Tuesday after Christmas. Tuesday, December the 27th will be my salary preview show. So if you play in season-long fantasy leagues, that will be an entire show devoted to that. And I'll give you my best plays, my best values, who I think who's auto owns, and some people to avoid, etc. So if you play season-long salary leagues or fantasy leagues, Tuesday, December the 27th will be that show. But no shows from now until then. Going to enjoy this time off, focused around family and Christmas and all that. And then once the show on the 27th hits, the Tournament of Champions will be right around the corner, and we're going to pick up right back again. But thanks again for tuning in and watching, supporting the channel. James, for jumping into Twitch chat. I appreciate every one of you that leaves a comment, likes a video, joins on Twitch, joins in YouTube chat, Twitch chat. I'm very thankful that I'm able to do what I do with you all, and hopefully I provide you all some winning moments throughout the seasons. I want to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you on the 27th for the fantasy or the salary preview show. So during this long holiday break, for any and all wagers that you make during these 2.5 weeks, may they all be profitable. Merry Christmas.